Welcome back to Project U 2.2, the podcast where we talk about the messy, beautiful, and deeply human journey of becoming the next version of yourself. I'm your host, Carrie, a retired teacher, mom of 3 boys, health coach, woman in her 50s, figuring out her next chapter, and your biggest cheerleader in rewriting the story of your life. This podcast is where we get real, where we talk about the science, the psychology, and the soul work behind creating a life you're proud to wake up to. So take a breath, get comfy, and let's step into today's episode. You know, sometimes the ideas that hit me the hardest show up in the middle of very normal moments of our lives. Last week, I was at Pilates, just doing my thing, trying to lengthen, strengthen, and remind my body it still loves me despite all the things I've put it through. And I saw someone who used to sit in my math classroom. It was a former student sitting on the Pilates reformer next to me, and her name is Grace. She is 21 years old, bright, sweet, the kind of girl you can't help but adore, beautiful inside and out. She is strong, fit, just glowing with that young adult energy that feels part inspiring and a little bit nostalgic. And I had this moment, the kind where something totally random lands in your brain, like, I don't know, like an Amazon driver just dropped it off to your front door. And this is my thought. What if for this year, I pretend that I'm borrowing Grace's body? Like literally, what if her body was on loan to me? And I know this sounds a little bit weird, so just stick with me. At the end of the year, if I had to give it back to her, and when I borrow something of someone's, I like to give it back to them better than what I received it, or at least in the same condition. And so immediately during the Pilates class, I was like, wow, that would change everything. Because I'm sure it's true about you too, that you take better care of other people's things than we do our own. So if a friend lent me their car, I would return it with a full tank of gas. I might even clean it out or at least drive it through a car wash. Or if someone lent me a sweater, I would wash it, fold it, spray it with my favorite laundry scent, which is, I really love either Sweet Grace, and that's just a coincidence, or Tyler brand makes one called Glamorous Diva detergent. And I would return it back to my friend like, here's your sweater. Thank you for trusting me. But with my own body, I return it with crumbs in the seats, with missing hubcaps and a questionable smell some days. So we are kinder to things when they're not ours. We are more responsible when it's for someone else. And there's some psychology behind this. Distance, even if it's imaginary, helps remove shame. It helps you see your body as something precious. So here's what I thought. If I were borrowing Grace's body, first of all, I would not feed it junk. I wouldn't let it get stiff and tired and neglected. I wouldn't talk to it like it was the enemy. I wouldn't return it to her 15 pounds heavier with inflammation and stress and exhaustion. No way. I would treat it like something valuable, something important, something that I wanted to protect. I wouldn't give it to her with all of this negative mental, negative vibes of talking bad to it, because I wouldn't want Grace to have that negative energy in her mind and her spirit and her soul when I gave it back to her. And so then that's when it really hit me in class is, why don't I treat my own body like that all of the time? And so I want you to try something with me right now. Let's all take a breath. And I want you to imagine you are borrowing this body you're in right now from someone you deeply adore. Maybe it's a daughter. Maybe it's your younger self, the version of you that you would do anything to protect. Or maybe it's someone like my Grace, someone who represents strength, potential, possibility. Picture their face. And then picture how much you care about them. And then I want you to imagine this. They're handing you their body and saying, take good care of this for me, okay? What changes for you? If this body belonged to someone you loved, truly loved, you wouldn't feed it whatever was closest when you were stressed or punish it with shame. You wouldn't talk to it like it's a failure or ignore it for days because life gets busy or keep it up late scrolling or let it sit in its own stiffness and exhaustion. You also wouldn't emotionally beat it up every time it bloated, gained a pound, or felt tired. And you wouldn't say, what is wrong with you? Or why can't you get it together? Because if this were their body, you would be gentle, you'd be responsible, you'd be protective, you'd nurture it, you'd listen. We show up for others in ways we rarely show up for ourselves. So if I were borrowing Grace's body for the next 40 days or the next 40 years, I would do things differently. I would fuel it with intention and move with gratitude. I would rest it like it deserves. I would make sure it was hydrated, and I would do some stretches. I would celebrate the progress, and I would treat every choice like it meant something. I would take it for walks just to feel the fresh air. I would feed it greens because I want it to thrive and not because I should. I would not use food to numb emotions. I would not use shame to motivate it because that doesn't work anyway. And I would speak to it like someone I love, like someone I'm responsible for, and like someone whose future depends on the choices that I make today. So here's the framework, the part that you can take with you in practice. I call it the borrowed body game. Okay, rule number 1, choose who you're borrowing the body from. And I think it'll be more meaningful if you think about someone you admire or love and someone just who represents who you would love to be. Then rule number 2 is to ask yourself daily, how do I take care of this body if it's theirs and not mine? Immediately the drama drops, the shame disappears, and it becomes more of a stewardship instead of a struggle. Then rule number 3, make one choice today that will improve the condition of your borrowed body. Just one. Maybe it's water, 10-minute walk, protein at breakfast, stretching before bed, or a kind thought. One step forward is still forward. And rule number 4, think about how you want to return it to that person. Do you want to hand it back stronger? Do you want to hand it back calmer or more energized, more confident? Rule number 5, speak to it the way you would speak to the owner. I would speak to Grace with kindness. I can't imagine talking to her the way I talk to myself. I would speak to it with honesty, with hope. If your body belonged to someone you adored, your tone would change and your standards would rise. Your choices would get cleaner, not because you should, but because you care. I've been playing this game with myself, and it changes you. It softens you. It strengthens you. It helps you feel more connected to yourself again. And maybe, just maybe, this is the mindset shift you've been looking for. And it's not punishment. It's not pressure or perfection. It's just stewardship. It's love. It's honoring the body you live in as if it's borrowed from someone who deserves the best of you. Try it for a week or even just for a day with one choice and see what happens. All right, beautiful friend, if this episode spoke to you, share it with someone who might need a little spark of hope today. And if you want more support, coaching, mindset tools, or community, you can find me on Instagram, TikTok, or my website, www.projectu22.org. And remember, you are becoming someone powerful, someone intentional, someone who takes care of themselves like they matter, because you do. Thank you for being here, and thank you for showing up for yourself. I will see you in the next episode of Project U 2.2, so take care of your borrowed body today.